It's time for another brief look at the Premier League going into Game Week 7. Fair warning, this analysis is results driven and the computer has no idea which teams the so-called experts think are good or bad. That does mean the odds and projections shown, particularly early in the season, may or may not be what those experts say are realistic. On to the title race. Again, we're still not too deep into the season, so these numbers are likely fluid to say the least. As of now, the target for the leading teams to shoot for is around 80 points. If we have more than one team dominate the rest of the league, that number will climb throughout the year. Looking at the top teams right now, starting with Liverpool sitting at the top of the table. 15 points with 5 wins and 1 blemish. Their mathematical odds to win the title are at 13%. Now, before they decide to rest on their laurels, I want to point out their schedule so far. They have only played one team that is in the top half of the table, Nottingham Forest, and they lost that game. They've had an easy start so far, which continues with Crystal Palace this week, but of course it eventually has to even up, and it will do so soon with Chelsea and Arsenal next in line. So we'll see where they stand after those two big tests. Next up, 1 point behind Liverpool is Manchester City. They haven't lost a match yet, but haven't won their last 2 either, tying Newcastle after their tie with Arsenal. 11% statistical odds to win the title, play Fulham this week before getting to play the 2 worst teams in the league. Before moving on, if you're playing in Fantasy Premier League or any fantasy sports league and want to know what matters and get all sorts of geeky analysis on the title or playoff race, check out the PlayoffComputer App on the Play Store. Also, 1 point behind the leader is Arsenal. Beat Leicester last week and gets what should be an easy game against Southampton this weekend. Liverpool on week 9. Chelsea kept pace by beating Brighton and are up to 13 points. Good enough for a 9% chance to take the title. They have Nottingham Forest this week before the big test against Liverpool. We'll see if things tighten up here or not. Aston Villa with perhaps a disappointing tie against Ipswich to ruin a chance at joining Liverpool at 15 points. Note they so far also have primarily played the bottom teams on the ladder. Have Manchester United up next, then Fulham. Fulham perhaps surprising an expert or two so far, swimming in the adult pool. Beat Nottingham Forest to get up to 11 points. Have a 6% chance to really surprise everyone. But another team that hasn't had many big tests yet, which of course eventually has to happen, and that starts now. Manchester City and Aston Villa next up on the plate. Newcastle United walked away with a tie against Manchester City. Get Everton this week, so a chance to keep somewhere near the top of the board. The Spurs beat Manchester United to get to double digits in points. 5% chance at the title. Game against Brighton this week that will help separate the pretenders from the contenders. Then a couple opportunities to bulk up on points with West Ham and Crystal Palace. Moving on to the race for safety. As with the title race, these numbers are highly suspect at this stage, but we're looking at around 38 to 44 points for the teams in the top 17 to maintain safety at the moment. For the teams in trouble, the Wolves still at 1 point after the loss to Liverpool. Now, like some of the top teams that haven't been tested yet, one thing the Wolves might have in their favor is they have yet to play one game against anyone in the bottom half of the table. So there may be some opportunity to sneak up the standings a bit. Have Brentford this week and then Manchester City afterwards. So things aren't necessarily getting easier right now, but that just means they certainly have to get much easier later. Computer says they are still in decent shape to escape to safety, but they'll need to take advantage of the easier parts of the schedule when they get to it. Southampton also at 1 point. Unlike the Wolves, though, they have yet to play too many of the top teams, so things might not be getting any better soon. Arsenal on tap, a possible break with Leicester before Manchester City. Crystal Palace at 3 points, have yet to win a match, so that's on the back of 3 ties. And similar to Southampton, they haven't played many games against the top tier yet, so things might be going from bad to worse with Liverpool, Nottingham Forest, and the Spurs in their immediate future. 71% chance to reach safety. Leicester lost to Arsenal, another team without a win yet, but at 3 ties. Bournemouth this week, and then Southampton to try to get their first win. Everton just about where they were figured to be. Beat Crystal Palace for their first win and quadrupled their point total to 4. 3 out of 4 odds to reach safety. Newcastle this week. Ipswich with that tie with Aston Villa gives them 4 ties for the season, which leads the league. I might say they should be fairly pleased with that, as they have had one of the tougher opening schedules in the league, having played 5 of the top 10 teams so far. And now get to reap some of the rewards for that with West Ham and Everton coming. 76% odds to reach safety. West Ham off to a slightly disappointing start at 5 points, but they also have had a rather tough start to the schedule and now get at least a possible chance to put another win on the board with Ipswich and improve their 79% chance to reach safety. That's it for now. Things will be rather brief until much later in the season. Until next time, enjoy your day.